The peace station floated quietly in space. It was not big, but it was important. Humans and aliens had built it together. It was meant to be a place where problems could be solved. No weapons, no soldiers, only scientists, builders, and helpers. Everyone came to the station for peace talks, small repairs, or new ideas. That was the goal. That was the dream. But dreams can break when the wrong people arrive. One morning, a dark ship from the Threx Dominion appeared outside the station. Its shape was sharp and cold, like a knife in the dark. The Threx were known for being cruel and proud. They believed they were better than most races. They ruled many systems and had powerful weapons. They often made others follow their rules through fear. When the Threx ship docked at the peace station, no one felt safe. The humans on the station were a small team. They fixed things and helped others. There were 5 of them, 2 engineers, 1 computer tech, and 2 safety officers. They had been on the station for 6 months. They were kind, skilled, and careful. They had made friends with other workers, both human and alien. They never caused trouble. They just wanted to make things work. But the Threx had another idea. They said the humans were spies. They claimed the humans had hidden tools to steal data. They said secret messages were sent to Earth, but none of that was true. The Threx gave no proof. They asked no questions. They just acted. First, the Threx guards stormed into the human sleeping quarters. They shouted, pushed, and broke doors. They grabbed the humans one by one. The humans were shocked and confused. They didn't fight. They didn't run. They tried to speak, but the Threx didn't listen. They took the humans to the coldest part of the station, the outer airlock. The airlock was used to throw out trash or broken parts into space. It was never meant for people, but the Threx didn't care. They set up a camera. They wanted others to see what would happen, but they didn't speak to the station leaders. They didn't let the humans say goodbye. The 5 humans were lined up inside the airlock. Their hands were tied. Their eyes were wide with fear. One of them was only 20 years old. Another had a picture of her daughter in her pocket. They looked at each other, hoping someone would stop it, but no one came. The Threx commander gave a signal. The door opened. The air was sucked out. The humans were gone. No trial, no names, just silence. At first, people on the station didn't know what had happened. Some thought the humans were sent home. Others believed they were arrested. But soon the truth spread. A cleaning bot had recorded part of it. A few brave workers passed the recording to others. It moved like fire, quick and angry. Everyone who saw it felt sick. It wasn't right. It wasn't fair. The Threx said nothing. They went back to their ship and left. To them, it was over. They had done what they wanted. They didn't care what others thought. They didn't think Earth would react. After all, Earth was far away. It had its own problems. Why would it care about a few workers in space? But the Threx were wrong. Earth did care, not just the government but the people. The families of the lost humans saw the video. Their friends wept. Their coworkers cried out. The names of the 5 were shared online. Their pictures were shown across the stars. People remembered their kindness, their smiles, and their dreams. They weren't spies. They were helpers. News spread quickly. On every human world, people watched the video. Some covered their eyes. Others clenched their fists. A small girl asked, "Why did they do that?" and no one had a good answer. Earth leaders saw the problem. At first, they held secret meetings. They wanted to be careful, they didn't want war, but as more people spoke up, something changed. Anger grew, but it wasn't loud. It was cold, heavy, deep, like a storm waiting to rise. Earth sent a message to the Threx. It was short. It asked for answers, it asked for justice. But the Threx didn't reply, they laughed. They ignored it. They thought Earth would move on. But Earth wasn't going to move on. Some things can't be forgotten. Some lines can't be crossed. And some actions wake up things that should never be disturbed. One of the engineers had a brother in the Space Navy. Another had a sister who led a colony's defense. The youngest had a friend who worked in Earth's cyber office. These people didn't wait for orders. They started asking questions. They looked into systems. They watched flight paths. They listened to whispers. And what they found was worse than anyone thought. The Threx had planned it. It wasn't a mistake. It was a message. They wanted to scare other groups into silence. They thought hurting a few humans would make others obey, but they picked the wrong targets. Because humans don't forget. And when they hurt, they don't shout. They don't scream. They plan, they prepare. And when they act, it is quiet, strong, and unstoppable. Across the stars, people began to whisper about what had happened. Not just humans, but aliens too, friends of Earth, workers who had shared meals with those 5 humans, captains who had once visited the peace station. They were angry too. They didn't like what the Threx had done. It wasn't just murder. It was an attack on hope. The peace station went silent. For a while, no one visited. Some feared more attacks. Others just mourned. The rooms where the humans had lived were left untouched. A small candle was placed in each doorway, a quiet memorial, a message to the stars. They were here, they mattered, we remember. One day, a young alien child stood in front of one of the doors. She placed a drawing on the floor. It showed the 5 humans smiling. Above them she had written, "You helped us. Now we will help you." Back on Earth, plans were being made. Not plans for war, not yet, but plans to watch, to learn, and to act if needed. Leaders met in hidden rooms. Families cried at kitchen tables. Soldiers cleaned their armor. Hackers opened their screens. Builders checked their tools. They all waited for the word. The Threx didn't see it coming. They didn't feel the shift. But the galaxy did. The silence after the killings didn't mean peace. It meant something was building, something heavy, something that would not stop until justice was done. And in the deep of space, in the hearts of millions, one thought burned brighter than any star. Each of the 5 humans who died had a story. Each of them was more than just a name. They had families, dreams, and people who cared deeply about them. They were not soldiers. They were not fighters, but they were brave in their own quiet ways. They worked hard. They helped others. They believed in peace. That made their loss even harder to accept. The first one was named Alira Gray. She was only 22 years old. She had just finished her training as a space engineer. She loved building things with her hands and making broken machines work again. When something was damaged, Alira never gave up on it. She believed everything could be fixed with enough time, care, and patience. Her favorite tool was a small spanner that she had kept since she was 10. It had her name carved into the handle. She kept it in her pocket every day. Elira had a brother named Aiden. He was a Marine on one of Earth's defense ships. He was older than her and had always protected her when they were younger. When Elira went into space for her first job, Aiden told her, "Don't worry, I'll always be watching the sky for you." After her death, Aiden sat in silence. He watched the last message she had sent him. It was a simple one. "I fixed the oxygen line today. I feel useful." He watched it 10 times before he stood up. He didn't cry. He started planning. The second was Matteo Rin. He was 29 and worked with station computers. He kept everything running smoothly. He was quiet and kind, and many people called him the calm in the storm. He loved puzzles and always carried a small book of them in his pocket. He would solve one puzzle each night before going to sleep. He believed that every problem had a solution, no matter how hard it seemed. Matteo had a best friend named Selin. She was a high-level hacker who worked in Earth's cyber division. They had met in school, and even though they took different paths, they stayed close. Selin was sharp, clever, and protective of Matteo. When she heard about his death, she locked herself in her office and didn't speak for 2 days. On the third day, she began to break into Threx systems, not to steal but to watch, to gather, to prepare. The third human was Kira Val. She was 32 and had a young daughter waiting for her at home. Kira had once served as a soldier but left the army to raise her child. She joined the peace station to help build safer living quarters. Her work was strong, steady, and careful. She always wore a necklace made from a tiny blue stone her daughter had given her. She said it kept her brave. Kira had a sister named Commander Nalia Val. Nalia was in charge of a large group of Earth's outer patrol forces. She had always respected Kira for choosing peace over war. Nalia believed in strength, but her sister believed in building. They were different, but they loved each other very much. When Nalia learned what had happened, she stopped smiling. She canceled her leave and returned to her ship. She did not speak in anger, but her eyes held a quiet fire that would not go out. The fourth was Leo Hart. He was 24 and full of energy. He had joined the station crew because he wanted to explore space and make a difference. He was known for making jokes and helping everyone feel better on hard days. He always had candy in his pockets and gave it out when someone looked sad. He had grown up in a small town and had never dreamed he would reach the stars. But he did. Leo's uncle was one of Earth's top scientists. Dr. Henry Hart worked on weapons and defense systems. He had always said Leo was the light in his life. When he saw the video of what happened, Dr. Hart turned away from his lab and made a new vow. He would use his mind not just to build, but to protect. He started designing tools that didn't destroy, but disabled. Tools that gave humans the edge they needed quietly. The fifth was Nova Dane. She was 26, smart and focused. She had studied safety systems and worked to make the station's hallways safer for everyone. She loved rules, not because she wanted power, but because she believed rules helped people live better lives. She checked doors, lights, and air filters every morning. She was the kind of person who caught small problems before they became big ones. Nova's father was a colony leader on a New Earth outpost called Haven. He had always told his daughter that peace was hard work but worth it. When he learned of her death, he didn't speak at first. He walked through his colony, looking at the homes his daughter had helped make safe. Then he made a call to Earth. "Whatever you decide," he said, "we will stand with you." Each of these 5 people mattered. They were not famous. They didn't hold titles, but they were loved. They were trusted. They were the kind of people who held the galaxy together not with power but with care. And when they were taken, something broke across the stars. The families of the five did not sit quietly. Some were in the military, some were in science, some were in politics. Others worked behind the scenes. But they all had one thing in common: they would not forget, and they would not let others forget either. Pictures of the five were shared everywhere. Videos of them working, laughing, and helping others began to appear on Earth's news. People watched and felt the loss in their hearts. Children wrote songs and poems. Artists painted pictures of them in space suits with stars behind them. Their names became known, not as heroes of war, but as examples of quiet bravery. Schools talked about them. Teachers told students how important their jobs were. They said, these were people who made peace real. They didn't fight, but they were strong. Many students wanted to be like them. They said they wanted to go into space, not to fight, but to build, to fix, to help. The galaxy began to change little by little. Other species who had met the five humans spoke out. A glaring traitor who had worked with Alira said, "She fixed my ship in half a day and didn't ask for anything. I still fly because of her." A Dural miner said, "Kira helped build the new sleeping area. She gave up her lunch break to finish it." The voices of the five echoed across space. Each person they had touched became a spark, and those sparks grew into something greater, a fire of memory, of purpose. The Threks had made a mistake. They thought they were erasing five names, but instead they lit a beacon that reached across planets. They thought no one would care. But those five were tied to people who could move stars, who could bend systems, who could shake empires not with noise but with action. In Earth's main control center, people began to draw lines on maps. Not lines of war, but lines of connection. They marked where the five had worked, who they had helped, who knew them. The map filled quickly. It looked less like a plan of revenge and more like a web of kindness, of change, of quiet strength. A network built not with weapons but with memory. It became clear the Threks had not just hurt five people. They had hurt five worlds, five families, five groups of powerful, focused, determined people who would not let the galaxy forget. And now something was growing, something big, not loud, not fast, but steady, purposeful. And once it began, it would not stop. They didn't just kill strangers. They hurt the wrong people. And Earth had just begun to respond. The days after the tragedy felt heavy. People across Earth and the stars were sad, but sadness slowly turned into something else. It turned into a deep need to do something. Not everyone could fight. Not everyone had power, but many people knew they had to act. The Threks had gone too far. Five peaceful humans had been taken without reason. And now, quiet revenge began to take shape. The first steps were not loud or bold. They were small, smart, and careful. Earth's leaders did not make big speeches. Instead, they watched, listened, and made plans in secret. They knew rushing into war could hurt more people, so they started by learning everything they could about the Threks. A group of smart people from Earth science centers began studying Threks ships, maps, and patterns. These people didn't carry weapons, but they carried something just as powerful: knowledge. They looked at old flight paths and space station logs. They found places where the Threx had been moving often. These places were not war zones. They were small trade routes far from big cities and planets. That's where the first changes began. Cargo ships started getting delayed. These were ships that belonged to the Threx or worked for them. They were carrying metal, fuel, or parts. But when they passed through human-controlled space, strange things happened. Navigation signals went missing. Fuel vanished faster than normal. Tools inside the ship started to break. It wasn't violent and no one got hurt, but the Threx noticed. They tried to blame space storms. They tried to fix their tools, but the problems kept happening. Their supplies were being slowed down, and no one could explain why. But Earth knew. Small teams of humans had been sent out. They didn't wear uniforms and they didn't speak loudly. They just did their jobs, quietly making sure the Threx felt just a little bit weaker. In another part of space, Earth's computer experts got to work. These were not warriors. They were people who used screens instead of swords. They knew how to find secrets inside machines. A group of them began watching the Threx's data systems. They studied how they sent messages, how they saved files, and how they kept their plans hidden. Slowly, they began to change things. At first, the Threx noticed small issues. Their messages took longer to arrive. Then, one of their patrol ships showed up at the wrong place. After that, an order for supplies was sent to the wrong planet. It seemed like a mistake, but it was. Earth's team had quietly changed the information in the system. The Threx didn't know they were being tricked. They thought their own people were failing. Confusion spread like a shadow. Meanwhile, in quiet corners of space, human ships that had once been used for moving food or supplies were changed. They were not warships, but now they had small upgrades. Their engines were faster. Their shields were stronger. Their tools could scan deeper and farther. These ships didn't attack, but they followed the Threx. They stayed hidden and gathered information. They listened to radio calls, watched ship movements, and took pictures from far away. Everything they learned was sent back to Earth. One of these ships was led by a woman named Captain Luma. She had lost her cousin, Alira, on the peace station. Luma had been a trader for years, but when Alira died, she changed her ship. She trained her crew. They were not soldiers, but they were brave. They flew close to Threx space, staying just far enough to avoid being caught. They learned about secret Threx posts, weak spots in their shields, and which planets they used to store weapons. All of that was sent back in silence. While the Threx were being watched, people on Earth also began changing how they spoke about them. News groups started sharing more stories about what had happened on the station. Videos of the 5 humans were played every day. Children lit candles in classrooms. Artists drew the faces of the fallen. Their names were not forgotten. In fact, their names were now everywhere. Some writers made stories about them. They wrote about the kind things they had done. They told how they had helped aliens, repaired broken doors, or cleaned sick bays. These stories were not sad, they were strong. They reminded people why those 5 had mattered. It made more people want to act. Young people on Earth started training. They joined special programs. These programs didn't teach war, they taught defense. Students learned how to fly, fix engines, send coded messages, and survive in deep space. They said they were preparing not for battle but to be ready. Their teachers told them, "We protect each other. That is what humans do." At the same time, small colonies in space began to close their doors to the Threx. These colonies had once sold food and fuel to Threx ships. Now when Threx captains asked to dock, the answer was simple: no. There were no fights, no loud voices, just quiet refusal. The Threx began to feel alone. Fewer ports, fewer friends. They began to notice that humans were not as soft as they had thought. A few brave alien groups also stood up. They had worked with the 5 humans. They had been helped by them. They remembered. A miner from the frozen world of Kel sent a message to Earth. It said, "They helped us when our heat failed. We will never forget." A trader from the moon of Dares refused to sell to the Threx anymore. He said, "They killed people who only wanted peace. I will not help them profit." Earth heard these voices. Quiet revenge was not only about hurting the Threx. It was also about showing the galaxy that Earth stood for something better. They showed strength, but they also showed care. And that scared the Threx more than any weapon. On some planets, old friends of the Threx began to leave them. They didn't trust Earth yet, but they didn't want to stand next to murderers. One planet, Corlax, broke its trade deal with the Threx. Another Velian stopped sending soldiers to help Threx patrols. The Threx began to feel trapped. No one shouted at them, but every door that closed felt like a message. You are not welcome. Back on Earth, 5 special stars were named in memory of the fallen. These stars were close to the station where they had worked. Telescopes pointed at them. People looked up and said their names out loud. It became a new custom. Whenever someone said, "Remember Elira," others would say, "We do." It was soft but powerful. In one classroom, a boy stood up and said, "When I grow up, I will be like Matteo. I will protect the station, and I will never let something like this happen again." His teacher smiled. Many other students raised their hands and said the same. One day these children would be the ones flying ships, fixing tools, and keeping the peace. Quiet revenge was also growing in them, not in anger but in purpose. Earth's secret teams began to pass small tools to those who needed them. A weak colony near Threx space received new shields, no questions asked. A trade ship from another world received a quiet upgrade to its scanner. These were gifts from humans. No one said who gave them, but the message was clear. We help those who help us. We protect those who protect others. One day, the Threx sent a ship back to the peace station. They wanted to show they were still in control. But when they arrived, no one came to greet them. The station lights were dim. Doors did not open. No one answered their calls. The station was not broken. It had simply chosen silence. The message was clear: you are not welcome here. The Threx left without speaking. For the first time they felt weak. No shots were fired. No ships were lost, but they had lost something greater. They had lost fear. People were no longer scared of them. They were no longer untouchable. Earth had started to push back quietly but clearly. And the best part, the Threx still didn't know just how deep the plan went. They didn't know that Earth had allies watching their every step. They didn't know that new tools were being made to defend against them. They didn't know that soon, even their own people would begin to question their leaders. Because revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. And when it does, the galaxy listens. The Threx believed they had won. They thought humans would be too soft, too kind, and too scared to fight back. After all, the 5 people they killed had not even carried weapons. They were builders, helpers, and thinkers. To the Threx, that meant humans were weak. They did not see the truth. They did not understand that those 5 humans were just one small part of something much, much bigger. Earth had always surprised others in the galaxy. Long ago, no one even knew what humans were. They had come from a dangerous world, full of storms, volcanoes, wild animals, and deep oceans. Many alien groups called Earth a death world, a planet where only the strongest could survive. Still, humans had not gone into space to conquer. They went to explore, to make friends, and to build peace. The Threx thought peace meant weakness. They had never seen true human strength. They had never seen what happened when humans lost someone they loved. They thought if they hurt humans quietly, humans would stay quiet too. But they were wrong, very wrong. At first, the Threx only noticed little things. Their ships started using more fuel. Their tools didn't work as well. Their maps had tiny mistakes. They believed it was just bad luck. But then bigger problems started happening. Their trade routes were slower. Their outposts stopped getting supplies on time. Some of their allies stopped answering calls. The Threx were confused. They still thought humans could not be the reason. They did not know Earth was already 5 steps ahead. Earth had been watching. Every quiet move, every small change was planned. They had sent out hidden ships. These were not warships. They looked like normal cargo ships or science boats, but they had strong shields, fast engines, and special sensors. These ships followed Threx patrols. They learned which paths they used when they rested and how many ships they had. Earth wasn't just reacting anymore. They were preparing. The Threx thought humans needed big weapons to fight. They didn't understand that humans had something even stronger: teamwork, memory, and quiet action. Across space, humans were building something the Threx couldn't see. It wasn't just about ships or tools. It was about trust. It was about belief. And it was growing. On Mars, a secret team of builders worked day and night. They weren't making bombs or blasters. They were making a new kind of shield, one that could block energy weapons without hurting the person behind it. These shields were light and small. Soldiers could wear them on their arms or backs. If the Threx tried to shoot again, these shields would protect the humans. And they were almost ready. In space near Saturn, a group of scientists tested a new engine. This engine was fast. It could take a ship from one star to another in less time than before. But it wasn't just about speed. It could also change direction quickly and hide from radar. That meant Earth's ships could appear, gather information, and disappear before the Threx even knew they were there. It gave humans an advantage the Threx didn't expect. But it wasn't just about machines. People across Earth and its colonies were also changing. They were training harder, not to attack but to defend. They learned how to fly, fix broken ships, heal wounded people, and survive in deep space. Even children were taught how to help. Schools had new classes about teamwork, kindness, and courage. The next generation was not growing up in fear. They were growing up ready. The Threx did not understand this kind of strength. They thought real power came from fear, control, and punishment. But humans showed them a different kind of power. The power of standing together. The power of remembering. The power of doing the right thing, even when it's hard. More and more species began to take notice. Some of them had been afraid to stand up to the Threx, But now, they saw what humans were doing. They saw humans fixing what the Threx had broken. They saw humans helping others instead of seeking revenge. And they started to believe that maybe they could do the same. One planet called Drelos had been forced to work for the Threx for years. They had no army and no way to say no. But when they saw how Earth responded to the peace station attack, something changed. They sent a message to Earth. It was short but clear. We are ready. Earth sent help not with guns but with food, tools, and power generators. The Drelos people cried when the human ship arrived. It was the first time in years they felt free. Another species, the Varnock, were known for being shy and quiet. They had watched what happened from far away. They had never picked a side. But now they sent a gift to Earth. It was a special kind of crystal that could power entire cities. They said it was a thank you for showing kindness and strength without hate. Earth accepted the gift with care and promised to share it with others. Still, the Threx did not understand. They believed Earth was only helping to look strong. They believed humans were afraid to fight, so they tried again. One of their smaller attack ships approached a human cargo station. The station only carried food and medicine. It had no weapons. The Threx ship fired warning shots and demanded to take the supplies. They thought the humans would give up, but something unexpected happened. A ship appeared out of nowhere. It looked like an old trade ship, but it was fast and strong. It flew circles around the Threx ship. Then, without firing a single weapon, it sent a signal that shut the Threx systems down. The Threx ship floated in space, powerless. The humans could have destroyed it, but they didn't. Instead, they fixed the station, gave food to the scared Threx crew, and let them go. The message was clear. We are not afraid, but we will not become like you. This shocked the Threx. They had expected hate. They had expected revenge. But humans had given them mercy and strength at the same time. It was not weakness. It was control. And it made the Threx nervous. Back on Earth, people did not cheer or dance. They stayed focused. They knew the Threx might try again. But now they were ready. Families who had lost loved ones stayed strong. They told their stories. They reminded others why they fought not for war but for peace, safety, and honor. Commander Nalia Val, the sister of Kira who died on the peace station, gave her team a new goal. She called it Operation Echo. The plan was simple. Never let the galaxy forget what the Threx had done, but never give them a reason to do it again. Her team traveled to peaceful planets, offering help, protection, and friendship. Everywhere they went, people remembered Kira. Her story became part of something greater. In the deep parts of space, more Threx patrols began to go missing, not because they were attacked, but because they simply gave up. Some Threx soldiers began to question their leaders. They asked why they had attacked people who were only trying to help. Others asked why their leaders still acted strong when their power was clearly shrinking. One Threx commander, tired of lies, sent a secret message to Earth. He said, "Not all of us agree. Some of us are ready to stop." Earth responded with quiet hope. They didn't trust him yet, but they listened. They were willing to help those who wanted peace. And so the story of the 5 humans kept growing. It started with sadness, but it became something more. Their names became stars. Their dreams became missions. Their kindness became courage. The Threx had underestimated Earth once. Now they realized their mistake. Because humans are not just strong with weapons, they are strong with memory, with friendship, with quiet fire. And now that fire was spreading across the galaxy. And this time it would not be stopped. The time for waiting was over. Earth had been patient. Earth had watched and prepared. The leaders had given chances. They had offered peace. They had stayed calm, but now things were different. The Threx had made their choice. They had ignored warnings. They had laughed at kindness. They had thought Earth would stay silent forever. They were wrong. Across the galaxy, people could feel it coming. There was something in the air, something in the stars. Ships moved faster. Lights blinked brighter. Signals carried stronger messages. The humans were not hiding anymore. Earth was ready. And this time they would not whisper, they would roar. It began without a single shot. It started with a signal sent from Earth to every human station, colony, and ship. The message was short and clear. We begin. Those two words traveled at the speed of light. As soon as they reached their targets, everything changed. On the planet Orionis 3, the human defense base lit up. Giant doors opened underground. Rows of ships rose slowly into the sky. These were not ordinary ships. They were built with stronger armor and faster engines. Each one had been tested many times. They had tools that could cut through shields, wings that could bend light, and computers that could think faster than a person. The Threx had never seen anything like this. Above Mars, a secret satellite began its final task. For years, it had been hiding in the dark. Now, it turned on a signal jammer so powerful that it could block communication across a wide part of space. Threx ships in that area became deaf and blind. They could no longer call for help or see who was coming. That's when the first wave arrived. From every part of human space, ships moved out. Some were small and quiet. Others were large and bright. All of them had a mission. This wasn't a wild attack. This was a clear answer. The Threx had taken 5 lives. Now Earth would take away their power. Earth would not destroy for fun. But they would stop the Threx from ever hurting anyone again. The first target was a Threx fuel station on a cold, quiet moon. This place was important because it helped Threx ships travel long distances. A team of human scouts reached it first. They didn't land. Instead, they used a new kind of drone, small flying machines that could sneak past guards. The drones flew in, turned off the station's lights, and shut down its systems. Then, without warning, a human ship hovered above. It dropped a beacon that sent out one simple message to the Threx workers below. Leave. You are safe. This station is now closed. The Threx tried to fight back, but their weapons did not work. Earth's signal jammer had already done its job. Within minutes, the station shut down completely. The human ship took what it needed, made sure no one was hurt, and left. This was not revenge. This was power used with purpose. Next, Earth turned its eyes to a Threx weapons lab hidden deep inside an asteroid field. For years, this lab had built machines designed to control or destroy. But now, Earth knew where it was. A team of pilots flew carefully through the floating rocks. They avoided danger. They stayed quiet. When they reached the lab, they sent a warning to the Threx scientists inside. Leave now. You will not be harmed. The scientists laughed. They thought it was a trick. But 5 minutes later, the outer walls of the lab began to melt. Not from bombs, but from a new human tool, a beam that used sound and heat. It did not explode. It just made the machine stop working. The scientists ran. The lab shut down. No one died, but the message was clear. Earth had found them, and Earth had ended their work. In many places, Threx ships tried to run. They thought they could escape, but Earth was ready. Human scouts had already marked their paths. One by one, human ships caught up. Some blocked the Threx from leaving. Others used tools to turn off their engines. No one was hurt unless they fought, but every Threx ship was stopped. In some areas, Earth had placed listening posts, tiny stations that floated like stars. These posts could hear every sound and see every light. They tracked where the Threx went and what they said. So when a Threx group planned to attack a human colony, Earth already knew. They sent help before the attack even began. The Threx were confused. They had always been in control. Now they were being stopped at every step. Their weapons were weaker. Their ships were slower. Their plans were always one step behind. It wasn't magic. It was human work, careful, smart, and strong. On Earth, people gathered to watch. Screens across cities showed where Earth's ships were moving. They didn't cheer for war. They stood in silence, proud and focused. They remembered the 5 who had been lost. They knew this was not about hate. This was about safety. It was about respect. And it was about never letting something like that happen again. In space, a group of human peacekeepers found a Threx prison ship. This ship held prisoners from many worlds, including some humans. The peacekeepers gave the Threx a choice. Let them go or face the full strength of Earth's fleet. The Threx refused. They thought humans were bluffing. But soon a line of human ships arrived. They used a bright light beam to cut the prison open without harming anyone. The doors unlocked. The prisoners were freed. The Threx guards dropped their weapons. A young girl from the planet Zyrene ran into the arms of a human soldier. She had been locked up for helping a human doctor. Now she was safe. Her parents cried as they hugged her. She whispered, "I knew you'd come." That moment spread across the galaxy. More and more people began to believe that Earth could be trusted. Not every Threx group stayed with their leaders. Some of them had seen enough. They sent messages to Earth asking for help. Earth didn't respond with anger. They listened. They gave food, shelter, and a second chance. The message was simple. If you choose peace, we will protect you. Some Threx leaders still wanted to fight. They told their soldiers that humans were evil, but even their own people had doubts. Why did Earth help others? Why did they give warning before each attack? Why didn't they just destroy everything? These questions made some Threx soldiers lower their weapons. They began to wonder if they were on the wrong side. The final moment came when Earth sent a message straight to the Threx High Council. It was not loud or long. It said, "You will not harm again. We do not want war, but we will not let you hurt the galaxy. The choice is yours." The Threx Council was afraid. Their ships were trapped. Their stations were taken. Their allies were gone. They could not lie anymore. They sent back a message asking to talk. Earth said yes. But they made one rule. The meeting would happen at the same peace station where the 5 humans were killed. So weeks later, ships from both sides met above the silent station. Inside, Earth's leaders sat on one side. The Threx leaders sat on the other. Around them stood people from many worlds, aliens, traders, builders, and teachers. The station had been repaired, but a statue stood in the middle. It showed the 5 humans holding tools and books, not guns. Earth's leader stood and spoke. She did not shout, she did not speak with hate. She simply said, "You thought we would do nothing, but we remembered, and we acted, not with hate but with strength. Now you will choose peace or more loss." The Threx leaders looked around. They had no army left, no friends, no power. Slowly they stood and nodded. "Peace," they said. Across the stars the news spread. Earth had responded. Earth had won, not just with tools and ships, but with honor and heart. The galaxy would never be the same.